Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the November 19th, 2017 special edition of The Breast There Is, The Breast There Was, and The Breast There Ever Will Be Wrestling Podcast. As always, I am your host, Mikey B. WWE, and this is a special broadcast, of course, because this evening we have the annual Survivor Series pay-per-view. And for those of you who don't know, Survivor Series is the second longest running pay-per-view in the WWE's history, only surpassed by WrestleMania. So it's certainly a big deal. We've had, over the years, so many memorable moments at Survivor Series. I myself have been fortunate enough to attend two of those. And even at each one, I attended a historical moment, certainly for both. At the first one, which I went to, which was in 1991, all the way back 26 years ago, I got to see The Undertaker win his very first WWF championship against Hulk Hogan, with a little assistance from Ric Flair, no less. So, and that was just 1 year after Undertaker's debut, so that certainly, in his long and storied career, was one of the most surprising and impressive early victories, and it's obviously will always be there in his pages, seeing as how it was his first top title. And then fast forward 8 years later, I got to see the debut of Kurt Angle in the WWF. So in addition to this, there's been many other memories, some of which I'll talk about a little bit later on. Before I get into my predictions for this evening's Survivor Series, I'm just going to quickly cover the events on Monday Night Raw and SmackDown this past week. Just the events which really furthered the storyline and finished setting up the official match card for tonight's event. So, so beginning with Monday Night Raw, the show opened with Stephanie McMahon calling out General Manager Kurt Angle, and really was getting on his case and berating him for the job he's done, at least of late, specifically regarding the SmackDown Under Siege invasion from a few weeks ago, and that also persisted the week before. The Shield then came down to the ring to defend Kurt Angle, and at the same time issue a challenge to the New Day for Survivor Series, which we found out soon enough was quickly accepted. We also learned that in the past week, after last week's episodes, that apparently John Cena is going to be competing at Survivor Series and also competing for Team SmackDown in the big men's Survivor Series elimination style matchup. So that was a big addition for the SmackDown team. And for the women's team on Raw, we also found out who the last spot was granted to. And not surprisingly, it went to Bayley, as she qualified after defeating both Mickie James and Dana Brooke in a triple threat match. Jason Jordan was also successful in a match by defeating Bray Wyatt in singles competition. The only reason this is significant is because Jason Jordan was quote-unquote hurt in the match, which put his selection on Team Raw in jeopardy. And sure enough, a little bit later on, Kurt Angle, who, as everybody knows in the storyline, is Jason Jordan's father, came out to say that he has a difficult announcement to make. A very distraught Jason Jordan hobbled down to the ring, very visibly upset, trying to protest the announcement, which he can foresee happening, pleading with his dad. Soon after, Stephanie came out rather impatiently and ordered Kurt to do it. Kurt Angle still had a lot of difficulty to pull the trigger on this announcement and make it official. So Stephanie's husband, Triple H, made a rare appearance coming down to the ring and basically informed Kurt that if he's not going to do it, then Triple H will gladly do it, and announced that he's now the fifth member of the team. And following this, he proceeds to do his pedigree maneuver on Jason Jordan and then stared down Kurt Angle. So everybody, this is officially some of the first seeds we're getting in the build-up to WrestleMania. I've been saying for a while that, especially with Kurt's impromptu appearance and competition at last month's pay-per-view at TLC, that we were likely going to be treated to a Kurt Angle matchup at WrestleMania. It's, to me, it's a little unfortunate with Triple H sort of coming in and out of the program as he sees fit. And it's just annoying that he always does this right at a time when, he inserts himself into one of the pay-per-view shows and takes over the position for someone else. It's in a high-profile show. So like I said, Survivor Series is certainly, if it's not the second biggest show after WrestleMania, it's a part of that big four with WrestleMania, Survivor Series, SummerSlam, and the Royal Rumble. And these are the big payouts for all the wrestlers because, of course, they generate the most revenue. So it's in my opinion, very frustrating to see him just insert himself into the program in a main event spot and preventing another top roster superstar who's been working, year round, prevents that superstar from earning a big paycheck. So they just have to sit at home and watch the program. I'm gonna get a little bit more into that part a little bit later on after I cover the SmackDown results. So heading over to SmackDown, Daniel Bryan opened the show by announcing the new WWE champion and also hyping AJ Styles up, similarly to how Brock Lesnar has Paul Heyman on Monday Night Raw hyping him up before any bout. And now, since AJ Styles will be competing against Brock Lesnar at Survivor Series, Daniel Bryan sort of was the de facto hype man. So after this, following this, Jinder Mahal backstage confronted AJ and says that he's coming for his belt at Survivor Series. I was kind of wondering what they were going to do with Jinder Mahal now, since he, after losing the belt last week, instead of being in a top match against Brock Lesnar, he's now nowhere to be found on the card. So I'm glad that they at least had that moment, showing that Jinder Mahal will certainly be involved in the top program again shortly. As well, Daniel Bryan then spoke to Shane McMahon backstage and says to him that after Sunday, they need to have a talk between themselves about cohesion. So you can see with a remark like that not everybody's on the same page around the SmackDown Live locker room. So that makes you wonder, heading into Sunday, how successful Team Blue SmackDown Live is going to be. The most notable moment on SmackDown Live came when Charlotte Flair, in her hometown, was successful in defeating Natalya to win the SmackDown Women's title. And after the emotional victory, Charlotte was greeted by her father, Ric Flair, Hall of Famer, who's been dealing with major health issues himself in recent months. This was certainly a very touching moment for the crowd on hand, as this was Ric Flair's first appearance since being hospitalized, and it was really just a special moment being able to share that with his daughter as she won her first title on SmackDown. Besides these moments, after many promos we've seen over the last several weeks, the Bludgeon Brothers will now make their debut / return, which I say return because these are two guys who have certainly been on in the program for years, but are now debuting as a tag team, just the two of them together. So they're making their debut next week on SmackDown, which will give the tag team division a much needed jolt as far as I'm concerned. And besides this, we finally got the expected Raw, Monday Night Raw invasion onto SmackDown, as it's been a few weeks since the SmackDown Under Siege invasion on Raw. So we all knew this was coming at some point before Survivor Series, and seeing as how this was the final SmackDown Live, it was pretty obvious that Raw was going to make an appearance. And most of the roster wound up coming out and attacking during the final main event between the New Day and Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn match. Okay. And I also wanted to mention, before I get into my predictions for the show, that just reiterating how frustrating it is when you see guys like Triple H, Shane McMahon, just becoming parts of these main event at huge events, no less, like Survivor Series. Because there's a number of big names who are absent from the Survivor Series card, which is kind of a shame. We're missing big names like Bray Wyatt, just recently WWE champion Jinder Mahal, who has been champion since April. So for the last 7 months he's held the title, and now he's nowhere to be found on there. Of course, Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn are not to be found on here. Rusev and Matt Hardy, to name a few others. So, this just gives you an idea that, when these other guys make room for themselves to be inserted into a show after not appearing all year long or for a few years or whatever the case is, it really it affects, I think, morale in the WWE locker room when guys who are there every week on TV and giving so many house shows throughout the year, that they're missing out on a huge paycheck for Survivor Series. I'm hoping, though, I'm very hopeful that some of these participants who I just named who are not at least on the match card, I'm hoping they'll make their presence felt and interfere in certain matches this evening, so at least they do get some paycheck and some appearance. So now on to Survivor Series. Coming into the event, my prediction record for the year stands at 38 correct predictions out of 69. And tonight's event will feature 7 matches, 2 of which are Survivor Series style elimination matches. And I'm going to make this a little easier on myself by choosing the victors for those matches. It's going to be very difficult to choose exactly who will be the final people who will win each of those matches, but since I have to just choose a victor between the Team Raw and Team SmackDown in either one of those, I will choose one of those, and just for fun I'll name who I believe will be the sole survivors of those teams. But again, I'm not going to try and figure out some sort of point scheme or marking scheme for that, so I'm going to give the point overall for which team is successful there. And it should also be noted, this is the first Survivor Series in recent memory where there is no championship on the line on the main card, which I think really is damaging to the overall impact that this show will make. We have many champion versus champion matches. That's what essentially the card is mainly comprised of outside of the elimination style matches. So we have a lot of champions there, but WWE, for whatever reason, decided not to up the ante and make this more exciting by actually having one of them put their belt on the line and maybe risking a belt moving from one show to the other. So I think that certainly adds or it detracts from the possible luster that the Survivor Series show would have. So having said that, the first match of the 7 in the evening is the first title versus title match, but not actually for any title. The Intercontinental Champion, The Miz, from Raw, taking on Baron Corbin, who is the United States Champion from SmackDown. And I feel, as is the case, as was the case in recent weeks and months, with The Miz having his Miztourage, and he's also had the use of Cesaro and Sheamus in the last couple months. I think, at least with the Miztourage, he's going to escape with a victory with some help from them, certainly. Not that this match, of course, really matters because no belt is exchanging hands, but I'm giving the Miz victory for that one, and that would be one victory on Raw's side. The next match is another champions versus champions match, which is the Raw Tag Team Champions, Cesaro and Sheamus, taking on the SmackDown Tag Team Champions, the Usos. And for this one, I'm going to give the victory to the SmackDown side, so I'm going to have the Usos being victorious during this match. The third match of the night is the first 5-on-5 traditional Survivor Series elimination style match, and this one is the women's match. The Raw team is comprised of Alicia Fox, who's the captain, Bayley, Sasha Banks, Nia Jax, and Asuka, taking on Team SmackDown with Captain Becky Lynch, Naomi, Carmella, Tamina, and after the title change for the women's belt, it was initially supposed to be Charlotte Flair in this match, but now Natalya has been named to the SmackDown women's team, since Charlotte will now be competing in the other women's title match, or I should say title versus title match, whatever you want to call it. I am going to choose Team SmackDown to be victorious in this first of 2 traditional Survivor Series elimination matches. I don't have too much good explanation why, other than I believe, as you'll see later with some predictions, that I just feel that they're going to try and balance the Raw and SmackDown victories on this show before one of them will finally get the deciding victory. So both on paper, Raw actually might even be a little tougher than SmackDown here, but I'm going to say that SmackDown will be victorious for the women's match, and I would say that Natalya will definitely be one of the sole survivors. It might be her and Becky Lynch, but I'm saying definitely Natalya. And if there's 2, it'll be her and Becky Lynch. But I'm going for sure Natalya being a survivor of that match. Okay, moving on to the 4th match now. It's the Raw Women's Champion, Alexa Bliss, taking on the SmackDown Women's Champion, Charlotte Flair. And after certainly the emotional victory Charlotte Flair had on Tuesday evening, I got to feel that unless Alexa Bliss does something very dirty to be victorious, that I'm going to give Charlotte Flair the victory on this evening. I just feel that, she's just riding that emotional wave right now. And I think that, she'll be victorious against Alexa. Again, not that this match really means much because it's not for either belt. So, it's that sort of affects, I think, predictions, the outcomes a little bit too, because it doesn't, starting on Monday and Tuesday for this week's episodes, all the champions will still be the same champion. So it doesn't really matter much who wins and loses on these matches. But for the sake of prediction-wise, I'm going to choose Charlotte Flair to be victorious tonight. The 5th match of the night is the only match that's not a Survivor Series style elimination, nor is it a champion versus champion match, which is the Shield taking on the New Day, which was also just announced this past week. And I'm going to give a point here to Monday Night Raw. The Shield is just newly reformed after several years being apart, and I think that's too enticing for the WWE to just pass up. So the Shield, I feel, will be victorious in this match. Moving on to the 6th match of the evening is the men's now 5-on-5 traditional Survivor Series elimination match. On the Raw side, we have team captain Kurt Angle taking on Triple H, Braun Strowman, with his teammates are Triple H, Braun Strowman, Finn Balor, and Samoa Joe, and they are taking on the SmackDown side, featuring Captain Shane McMahon, John Cena, Randy Orton, Shinsuke Nakamura, and Bobby Roode. You have 3 or 4 guys in here who don't fight regularly in WWE, so I think that's kind of a pity, as I stated earlier. But just because Kurt Angle's job, you can see, is on the line for this one, and because they're slowly doing now a build-up to him versus Triple H at WrestleMania, as far as I believe, I feel that Monday Night Raw will be successful, but there's going to be there's going to be some bad feelings between Kurt Angle and Triple H, especially after Triple H put down his finishing maneuver on Kurt Angle's son in the ring on Monday night. So I could see there being some miscommunication with this team, still being victorious, but certainly creating the rift if it hasn't already been created, which I think will manifest itself and build up even more, potentially at Royal Rumble. You can bet these two are probably going to be involved in that show as well to really keep hyping it up. It's similar, if you will, looking back a few years ago when Sting made his WWE debut, his highly anticipated one. It was, again, involving Triple H, and they slowly planted the seeds starting at Survivor Series, no less, and had it continue on until their matchup at WrestleMania, which, was a bit of a snooze fest. So I'm saying that Monday Night Raw will be victorious here. I do feel that we're going to get some of these interferences going on in this match. I think that for Braun Strowman's sake, I think Kane might make an appearance after they had their no contest match on Monday Night Raw, in which they both were planted through the middle of the ring. I think that will Kane's interference will open the door for Braun Strowman being eliminated. And I also think with Finn Balor, Bray Wyatt and he have never completed or wrapped up their feud, their program. So I got to believe that Bray Wyatt could also make some sort of appearance and affect and distract Finn Balor, getting him out of the picture. And so I'm saying that Kurt Angle and Triple H will be there right at the end. But Triple H will definitely, of course, since he's married to the boss's daughter, he's going to be victorious, and maybe with Kurt Angle too. But we're going to see the Raw team be victorious during this one, which, if you've been counting, makes it 3-3 now for Raw and SmackDown on tonight. Heading into our final main event, which is between the two top champions, the Universal Champion from Monday Night Raw, Brock Lesnar, and the WWE Champion, AJ Styles, from SmackDown Live. And, this match, if this were for a championship, would be awesome. And I still think it's going to be very good because these guys are they're so excellent in the ring. And it's going to be interesting compared to see the different styles and the different, even just the weight classes, really almost, see how they can work with each other. I do feel this is going to be a bit of a disappointing finish, though, with Jinder Mahal showing up during the backstage to AJ Styles on SmackDown Live. I have a feeling that he may come out and either distract or attack AJ Styles at some point, which would enable Brock Lesnar to be victorious. Again, no one's losing any belts here, so it doesn't really matter very much, but I'm going to give the victory to Brock Lesnar, meaning that I feel Monday Night Raw will be the winning side, since they're really advertising this, the one night of the year when Raw and SmackDown go head to head. Well, if we're going to get swept up by that, we're going with Monday Night Raw. I believe will be the victorious side. Kurt Angle will get to keep his job, at least for now. And at least we'll get some appearances from, hopefully, Jinder Mahal, Bray Wyatt, Kane, perhaps. And I wouldn't be surprised if Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn, did something to just get themselves involved in one of the matches. Could be the tag team match, could be, even the main event. It's difficult to say, but both those guys hopefully will make their appearance too. So, okay, folks, there you have it. I am hoping this show will be a lot more exciting than we're expecting. Because Survivor Series is usually one of the most enjoyable programs of the year. So we'll see what happens. Thanks very much for listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel below if you enjoyed what you heard today. And we'll see how I do on my predictions for the evening. Thanks for listening, and see you next time.